Welcome to the Awakening Frequency podcast, where truth meets transformation. Hosted by Ledesma and Danielle Henchcliffe. This show dives deep into the unseen, the unknown, and the undeniable forces shaping our world. From UFO disclosure and government cover-ups to whistleblowers exposing hidden truths, we pull back the curtain on the mysteries they don't want you to know. We explore spiritual enlightenment, secret agendas, and the cosmic forces influencing our reality, empowering you to see beyond the illusion. So, if you're ready to break free from the matrix, challenge the narrative, and awaken your consciousness, you've come to the right place. Tune in, open your mind, awaken your frequency.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Awakening Frequency podcast. I'm your host, Ledesma, and
Danielle, Henchcliffe.
all right. So, everybody, just welcome to this new show. We're just bringing it to the table. This is our pilot episode. So, we're going to be talking about a couple of things today, but I want to introduce myself. If anybody doesn't know who I am Donald Ledesma. I do have a podcast called Alien Strand, and I am a film director. Wrote a little small book. So, we're out here preaching disclosure. We've been doing this for a long time, over 10 years plus. So we have a website out there for this new podcast that's we're doing here today. But we're going to be talking about a few things. But how about you? Let's talk about Danielle here for a second. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I have been part of the disclosure community for a little over a decade, gone public with my story. And that's how me and Donald met, was through his documentaries, writing reviews, and just been part of the Alien Strand community as a representative in my state of South Carolina, helping people get their report stories or encounters.
Right on.
And yeah.
Yeah. So as we're going along here today, you got to remember we have a website, the Awakening Frequency Podcast website. If you go to our Facebook, it's there. You'll click on the links there to our Facebook page. Please follow us there, and you'll see the links to the website that we have there. We have a donation page. Please donate. It all helps to keep this going. Right? I know we just started. This is our pilot podcast, but we wanted to introduce ourselves and bring everybody aboard to what we're going to be talking about today and in future podcasts. So we're going to be bringing in a lot of enlightenment, a lot of awakening moments, of course, for people out there that want to talk about ufology, disclosure, anything like that. And we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're here to help people, right? And to kind of help awaken their inner spirit as well. And just to know that these extraterrestrials, UFOs, everything like that do exist, and we're going to show proof. We'll be talking about it. Danielle will be talking about her stories. I'll be talking about my stories. We'll be bringing a lot of different stories to the forefront. And I just want to make sure that everybody hopes, and I hope you guys love this new podcast that we're going to have that we have now. Sorry, I'm a little twisted right now, but it's just going to be amazing. So as we've been going along, let's talk a little bit about this, right? What we've been seeing lately in the news. What are your thoughts about this new discovery?
My thoughts is this was a long time coming. I mean, from what I understand, they started back in 2022, 2023 with these scans,
Right.
and they have been famously, the Egyptian government does not like people being invasive digging there.
Right.
It's highly sensitive. So for this to come out and not be debunked, there's a lot of misinformation about it right now. It
Yeah,
still has to be peer reviewed, and the data is compelling.
it is. It is. And what was crazy about me when I started seeing the actual the video of it, right? The what was it? Let me see if I have it here. I don't. The video of it, of the of what it actually looks like, right? And what there were the scans, and of course we were seeing how big this thing, to scale, from the pyramids, as it was. Now I saw a video today. I don't know about you, but the guy, this guy that was talking about the obelisks, right, and how it has a point at the very top, and that this could possibly be that obelisk, right? What's down there could be the rest of it, right? What do you think about that?
I think that's a possibility, and I'm excited because there's gonna be more data coming out. I've seen the images of that being the cap of the obelisk. I can't say that word, but the column.
Right.
That's is the tip of which is mind blowing to me. And thinking about the columns and what technology they would have to put that down in the ground.
And how old it is. That's the thing. That's what's got me. You know
It would predate the Egyptians.
exactly, exactly. And this is why people didn't see it in the in the news right away, because I think they were just trying to confirm through the Egyptian government that what they found was a possibility, that right, of that these columns, 8 columns or whatever it was underneath there. I have heard that they have found, in the pyramids of Mexico, that they have found a lot of mercury and stuff at the bottom of these pyramids, like pools of it. But I don't know about this one. I mean, it's just it blows me away on everything they had found on it. And just
Shafts, the
yeah,
rooms,
yeah. And there's, I don't know, they're saying it's a staircase, or something at the bottom
spiral.
of that. Yeah, spiral case. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it. How, if the technology was, I mean, you know how long it takes to dig down that far? That's far.
I don't think we could even do something like that today. With
Yeah,
today's technology, I don't think that's possible.
yeah. And I had posted something on Facebook, I believe it was about the Russians, back in the 1970s. They were in not only the space race, but they wanted to dig into into the Earth's mantle, and they wanted to try to go down as far as they could. And they went down, I think, what was it? 1.7 miles or something like that down, and that's as far as they could get, because it was extremely too hot down there. And they're saying this is about that far down, you know?
Couple
And
kilometers.
that's what I'm trying to get at, it's like, how could they dig that far deep into the earth and not get burned with the heat?
And hearing how the conditions of the pyramids right now, the limestone, for them to do those sonar scans or LiDAR scans, the satellite, everything they used, they are saying the conditions are so good only at the pyramids with the lime, all the different materials, they are getting such good feedback on these scans that they believe are accurate.
Right.
Right. S I mean, so they built them there for a reason. The conditions for the Earth's electric, someone called it the Earth's energy. They were placed there for a reason, and now this tech, the sonar scans are showing us some amazing stuff, and there's more to come, they're saying.
And people are going to try to debunk it. That's what you were just saying earlier. It hasn't been yet. They're trying. And I was thinking too, when I first, came across that it was a possibility that, I'm looking for the story right now, but that there was a possibility of that it could have been, earthquakes or little shafts of water or whatever that are down there. And that's what people are seeing, but they're actually seeing something at the very bottom, of that.
See, there's other pyramids, not these, but nearby in the same area where they have found older older structures underneath with water that goes down stories. There, it's one dedicated to a goddess. I can't
Right.
think of the name. I should have Googled it. Somebody went there on a tour, an archaeologist, and she was explaining how they made this newer discovery in our lifetime, in our generation, and they found a much older construction that rewrites history. Like, the history books are not recent, they're not correct. So, why not these pyramids?
Yeah. And it says, let's see, it says, David says, seems like a power station or charging station for universal travelers. What do you think about that?
I've always felt that way. I mean, what we know about the pyramids as it stands, it with the crystal, the quartz, it was ripe for free energy.
Right.
Whatever advanced technology this civilization may have had, or were they smart enough to go underground, to live underground? Were they aware of something that was coming to where they needed to build something that far down?
Right.
We gotta think about the topography, the geography of what it was then. It wasn't the desert like it is today.
Right. Well, and that's the part, the question, the $200 question that we've been trying to answer for a long time. And what's that light bulb thing that they had that they had used the Egyptians to make electricity with what was it, bronze or copper? It was copper and then acidative, and then they had like a stick of bronze or whatever in there to kind of make it light up like a bulb that they were using for light. Now they had already figured that out, so why not? And this was the Egyptians, right?
Yeah.
So, and if this was made before the Egyptians, could it actually had, these these not, I'm not going to say time travelers, but I'm just going to say, like what you said, older, older civilizations that were there before.
Yeah. So, more recent data came out, and they are calling it, the scientists, the ghost generation,
Uh-huh.
that our DNA has been messed with, and they are not calling it, alien, they're calling it, the scientists are just calling it like a ghost. Like, we don't know where this civilization came through that bred with, Homo to make Homo sapiens sapiens,
Right.
and this is, we're talking the time period of Egyptians. So, eh, you gotta start thinking, you know, all those ancient alien stories, the
Right.
hieroglyphs, the everything that's around the pyramids, it looks like advanced technology.
So I'm thinking that maybe the stories of the Anunnaki, right? Because they were here a long time ago, right? From the people of Sumer, right? Sumerians, that of course their story always coincides with the Bible, and they're almost neck to neck with each other. And the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were, the Sumerians were actually, it wasn't a religion, it was a religion, right? It's just like the Bible, it's a religion, right? So they had to put the stories in there, but the stories are what I'm talking about. They're old, super old, right? And and if this structure is so far down into the earth, right?
The Egyptians could have inherited this and repurposed
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. They could inherited it. And that's what I'm thinking, that, and I've said it a long time. People get pissed off at me because when I say it, I'm like, I think the Egyptians, all they did was they put their graffiti on the walls, right? We own this place, right? But actually probably didn't know what it was, that it goes deeper than it actually is, right?
There's rumors of the Mayans,
Right.
like, inheriting, there's pyramids on every continent
Right.
and structures that don't make sense, like in Thailand, s that could laser precision how it was built and carved out, and the pyramids perfectly how perfect they are, like,
Yeah.
and where they sit in reference to the equator, the dimensions, it's actually, I think, eight-sided,
Right.
but it's hard to see, it's like an optical illusion. I
Yeah.
think there is a lot more for us to learn, and some historians don't want to budge on that
Yeah.
because we
And
have to rewrite history.
yeah,
It rewrites humanity, our
ex-
history.
exactly. And that's what's going to freak people out. And the Egyptians ain't gonna like that at all. So, and to find something like that, and then what made them shoot the lidar? What I mean, where they check, and actually the system that they use that for earthquakes, and they check, water tables, things like that below the Earth's crust. I mean, below our feet, right? I don't know how far down, but apparently these columns are a mile down. And that's, if you think about it, the Grand Canyon is a mile down, right? So
What did they find in the Grand Canyon?
exactly,
Exactly.
and it dug itself out, right?
And there's some caves that are hard to get to with Egyptian a lot of the same stuff that's in Egypt is in our Grand Canyon,
Exactly.
and they said that's been debunked, but there's evidence from that famous, the Smithsonian
Right.
Museum. They
Right.
sent 2 people there to document and get whatever they I think there was always a reason to do those scans.
Right.
There are parts of history that is not in mainstream education. The
Right.
Egyptians probably know that. They know their history, but it behooves them to keep it the way it is,
Well, that's true.
in my opinion.
That's true. And what I mean, what do we know about it? It's just all we can do is guess at this point, unless somebody's going to dig that far down, and that ain't going to happen. We already know that, but I don't know how far they can dig, and just to see if there's an actual column, or is it just a piece of stone that has formed itself down there, but then it's kind of spiraled down,
And then there's the shafts and then other structures that look like roofs.
right.
I don't know if we've got the image, but there's, like, a roof with different layers
That
that those. Number 8,
right.
number 9. I mean, what are even those?
Yeah, and that's inside, and this is giving you the chamber, that's inside of there, right? And it's kind of going down, um, but
Yeah.
it's picking up these images that there's something deeper, below the earth, below those pyramids, actually, right?
And yeah, in the press conference, the Italian team yesterday, it was like a 4-hour press conference, are saying there needs to be more. There needs to be more scans, excavation. That means, they're really pushing, yeah, challenge this, peer review this. Let's bring other teams in. You gotta get the government on board. But that's what's gonna have to happen is they're gonna have to start digging to and why would they go public with this if not to put the pressure on the world stage?
Yeah, and then of course these blocks at the very bottom, right?
Yep.
What they think they are at the very bottom, and why they're sitting on those blocks.
I mean, is it just structural? I mean, how did they know to I mean, that looks a lot like what we would do for a skyscraper, structural engineering, but then again, how did they have the technology to do this? The know-how, unless there was another civilization that predates the Egyptians. I mean,
And
what we already know.
yeah, and that's the funny part about it, because if you really kind of think outside the box, right? If the Earth was at a younger time, a younger period of time, was it smaller? You know what I'm trying to say here?
Yep.
Because all that got covered with sand, dirt. Where did all that come from? I mean, and
Yeah.
it all gathered in that one place. That's the thing, you know. This is why, and we know through time and through volcanic eruptions around the earth, all over the earth for thousands of years, right? Of course, it's going to make more land mass, and it's going to grow bigger and bigger, right?
Yep.
So that's where I'm trying to get at. And then through time and everything that happens on Earth,
The
even
Nile, the
it
river
just
was in a different place, and you've got to think about, like, all the continents at one they separated through
right,
earthquakes, all these catalyst events, what every ancient religion has said, the great floods.
right.
It just makes you wonder what was there? What was it looking like when they built this? Who was building it?
Right.
And what was the purpose? And Are they coming back? Are they still down there? Like
Yeah. Yeah, we can find out in Los Alamos, right? Because we know those aliens are down there. That's for sure in New Mexico. So, unfortunately for that gentleman that they murdered because of it, that's the only bad part about stuff like that. When you get too deep or too close, bad things end up happening to people. But I think this was a find that nobody was expecting, not even our own governments or nobody was, right? Because this is over there in that part of the world. It's not even the United States, right? So what does our government have to do with it? Really nothing. But
I find it interesting that there was a big hoopla recently about, potential findings. Someone has said that there is going to be a new knowledge, a new awakening under the Sphinx is going to be released. And if you look at the Sphinx physically and how much it's changed, there's renderings of what the Sphinx used to look like. So it like makes me question the pyramids. And okay, if there's a hidden knowledge under the Sphinx, what do we got under the pyramids?
right,
So if anybody knows, I'm referencing the story of UFO of God, Mr. Christopher Bledsoe, talking
right,
about
right.
a new knowledge coming in 2026. And the timing of this information coming out,
Yeah. And this is the kicker. If they did find something, and if they do find something, guess what? That whole area is going to be closed down. It's not going to be people are not going to be able to visit it anymore. That's
no more
exactly what's gonna
tourists,
happen. And if they stop the tourism and all that stuff around there for quite some time,
red
that
flag,
yeah, red
red
flag right away. So, be
Is this
because
their way of conditioning their
yeah,
form of disclosure, their narrative,
right,
whatever govern it's you gotta under I believe the United States is at the helm of disclosure, and
yeah,
other countries are sort of following suit, whether
yeah,
if you feed into the conspiracies or go down those rabbit holes. I
yeah,
mean, we are having congressional hearings, and we have task force
right,
investigating this stuff. And then we have this huge finding in a 4-hour press conference from an Italian team,
right.
and we've worked with the Italians before. I believe we got something from them back in World War II.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's they're gonna hide a lot of stuff. It's because of the technology, and that's all it is. It's like we want to beat you to the punch, and unfortunately, we know that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to cover it all up. It is what it is. We're kind of waiting for it. I don't know if you saw if you're on X, well, I call it X, but X on the app. But if you are, Luis Elizondo was getting pretty fired up because when they did that meeting of the congressional hearing, that they said that he said that those people in the actual hearing, um, I guess the congressmen or men and women were actually starting to cover it all up again.
Yep. That
So
is the big hoopla.
yeah, that's upsetting, really, in reality.
And now they've went on and hired David one of the task force members have hired David Grush for 4 months as
Right,
a consultant. That is breaking news as he was in the first congressional hearing,
right,
and we got Lou Elizondo going around the country right now. He still has security clearance. It's just I struggle because they're all connected to the government. They still work as if they still got their clearance, why don't they just go into a skiff and give that classified information afterwards? Why was that stopped after the congressional hearing?
right,
Um, because that was frustrating. He kept saying, "I would have to tell you in a skiff. It's
right,
classified." And they didn't get permission for that. And they weren't fighting for it in the second hearing. They weren't fired up, in my opinion. I watched both of the big hearings with David Grush to Lou Elizondo, and he's fired up. He
yeah,
went on CNN, I believe, and said, "Give me a polygraph."
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
say
and that's the bad part. It's like it's just him, right? And who's going to stand behind him? Is especially in the military, they don't want to lose their pensions and all that good stuff that comes along with it, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, unless you
feel
got
like
books or whatever, you can maybe make some money off of it or whatever. But it's kind of hard when those people are kind of they're really
it's
they're
there's more and more whistleblowers that are military, and,
yeah,
it's either helping or hurting him, depending on who you ask.
right.
He was straight up asked, Are you part of a psychological operation?
Hmm.
Are you working as a disinformation agent?" And he got riled up. "Give me a polygraph."
Yeah,
Like, he was so offended because it destroyed his life, as he says in his book, Imminent. Um, he lost everything, essentially, when he went to go work out in California for the Blink-182 guy, I think.
yeah.
That
Tom DeLonge.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that fell through, and he lived in a camper and started writing that book.
wow,
But, I go back and forth. I try to keep my opinion to myself when it comes to that because it's so fluid. There's so much information coming out, at us with whistleblower after whistleblower, which I'm excited about some of them, um, and I'm hoping to have some on one day to interview. I wanna hear their stories.
right. Right. Well, and we saw this picture here recently, and it came out, a few years ago, but it's the actual EBE from Area 51, the last remaining one that they had before he died. And
Yeah.
this is a photo that was pulled off of there. Um, and it's just one of those things that when we're talking about the military, the cover ups, and everything that comes in between. Um, they're going to do whatever they have to do to save their rear ends, really, in reality. And if they got it covered up, they got it covered up. It is what it is, right? And all we can do is bring out the disclosure of whatever we have, and show the world that this stuff is out there. It does exist. People do experience extraterrestrials and everything like that, and they're in touch with the universe and in touch with these UFO crafts, and as we're going to be talking about in the future podcasts, and so speaking of future podcasts, all right. So we have. Let's see what time is it? Yeah. So we're coming up to the end of this podcast. So um Danielle, go ahead and tell everybody what is the new guest that our first actual guest that's going to be on for this podcast.
So coming mid-April, we have a special guest coming to hang out with us. You may have seen him recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, Jason Sands. Um, Phenomenal story, and he has agreed to come hang out with us, and I'm super excited. Uh, he has been making his rounds and joined TikTok and started chatting him up, and he wants to talk.
Right.
So I think it's time for people to redefine what does disclosure mean? Does it
Exactly.
have to come from, you know, somebody in the Oval Office? Maybe it's time to rethink, and Jason Sands has a lot to say, and I'm very excited to have him on mid-April.
Right on. So Jason Sands, so he was on Joe Rogan. You were saying, and of course he had like what 3 million views or something like that on his on that podcast.
And
He's going to
just
have
on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's gonna have some amazing stories. And then the if you haven't heard his stories yet, but we're gonna dive a little bit deeper when we have him on as a guest on the show. And we're gonna just ask him a little bit more different questions, right? Things that I want to know in here, right? So and that's what we're gonna be asking him. So hopefully everybody joins us for that podcast here in April, mid-April. And then we'll get that ready. But between them, this is our pilot episode, and as we're testing the waters here. Thank you everybody for watching the show today, and it's been my pleasure for today, and catch us on some upcoming podcasts. Correct.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. So please join us across all the platforms. I think we're gonna have some interesting things to talk about, and the news is gonna keep coming. I think this year we're gonna have a lot more bombshells. We have a lot to
Definitely,
talk about. Yep.
definitely. So right now we're live on Rumble and on Twitch. We're going to be live on YouTube by next week. We do have a TikTok page, so you can go to check out our TikTok there, follow us there. We're going to have a sponsors here coming up soon on the next podcast. We'll get that going, and then if you guys want to be on the show, of course, go ahead and give us an email shout out. It'll be on the description of this podcast today. Go to our email there, or just go to Facebook and look up our website, or I'll actually link it on this podcast today, and then just go ahead and give myself or Danielle a call, and we will set you up on a show to be on the show. If you got something to talk about, something of the unknown, of course, we're gonna end up talking about it. And I hope you guys really enjoyed today's show.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
All right, have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.